A day without laughter is a day wasted. Charlie Chaplin. When looking into the topic of humor and trying to decipher what makes something humorous, it comes down to personal views. For me, it's this broad spectrum. It could be something like a joke or a funny story. It could come through photography or a meme, or it could be a movie or a video. But one form of humor that I'm not familiar with is humor through comic strips or cartoon illustrations. My class was assigned this semester to read the comic strip Asterix The Gaul. Asterix The Gaul was written by René Goscinny and illustrated by Albert Uderzo. And this opened up a new aspect of humor for me, and I want to address the various concepts of humor that I found throughout this comic. The comic strip Asterix The Gaul is one of France's most famous comic strips, selling over 18 million copies. But why was this comic strip so popular? Was it the humor, was it the context of the story, or was it both? The characters within this comic strip were members of a small village. This story is set in a village called Amérique in Gaul, and it was set in the year 50 BC. The village has been successfully resisting the invasion attempts from Julius Caesar, who has conquered all of Gaul except this one specific village. But what I noticed within this comic are several concepts of humor revolving around this simple setup storyline. The first concept of humor that was very easy to find for me was the wordplay. The wordplay is extremely humorous throughout this entire comic, and it's very well thought out play on words. There was also various examples of puns, which also kind of goes into the same topic here. So as far as finding this play on words, it's nearly in every strip of this comic. The second form of humor that I found would have been the exaggerating of the characteristics of the characters within this comic strip. For example, Asterix. He is this short in stature warrior who has a mustache and wears a helmet with wings and is just all around happy and funny. And it gives you this idea of who he is, and it paints this picture of this character, which just adds humor to the whole entire storyline. But not only Asterix, there's also Obelix, which is Asterix's best friend. And this character is obsessed with eating wild boar. And he's always down for an adventure if it's possible for him to either hunt or eat wild boar. So it adds this unique characteristic to this character as well. So it's through this exaggeration of characteristics that also adds this layer of humor to this comic strip. This layer that you wouldn't necessarily get if someone was telling you a story or, it's so layered in here that each character in this comic has such a unique personality, and it's so exaggerative of this characteristic. The next form of humor that was easy to find for me was the use of stereotypes. Usually when people hear the word stereotype, it's automatically negatively associated with something. But the use of stereotypes in this story specifically is so humorous to me because the members of this small village, they have this stereotype of people who would be from a small village. And the fact that they haven't been conquered gives them this persona of we can't be conquered, we have to stand our ground. And then there's the stereotypes of the opposite side with Julius Caesar and how these characteristics and these stereotypes are all based around we're the best and we've overtaken all of Gaul. So the use of stereotypes in this added a layer of humor for me. The next type of humor that I found was illusions. But when it comes to illusions for me personally, it's harder for me to find them if I'm not looking for them. Illusions, in my opinion, is something you have to go in looking for. But if you are looking for the types of or examples of illusions within the storyline, it is definitely there. There's also a use of intertextuality within this. And for me, intertextuality is the combination of different forms of text. And the fact that this has been translated so many times, it adds this layer of humor because the original words that have been translated when they're translated into the English version, it adds even more humor to this story, in my opinion. There's also the examples of anachronism and how the humor portrayed in this comic is so relevant, such a relevant form of humor for us based on the fact that it was staged in 50 BC. So anachronism, that's like taking something that's old but making it funny and modern, and that was definitely used within this storyline. But due to the allotted amount of time for this speech, I can't go into examples or details of all of these different components of humor. But I am glad that I was able to at least mention which concepts I was able to find, and also broaden my idea of humor within comic. As I mentioned previously, cartoon drawings is not something that I've much experience with, but after reading Asterix The Gaul, I was awoken to this new idea of humor. The way that the word usage is portrayed, the witty and sarcastic remarks, the characteristics of the characters, the intertextuality, anachronism, and the stereotypes, it all created a recipe for a good laugh. Like I said, people all view humor differently. But for me, if something makes me laugh or puts a smile on my face, I define that as humorous. I would definitely recommend this comic strip to anyone interested in comics or interested in experiencing a comic. To answer the previous question, what made this comic so popular, I would say it was both the humorous content and the context of the storyline. I now see why this is one of France's most popular comics. Thank you.